For most of the 20th century, neuroscience ran on one simple, unshakable rule. You are born with every neuron you will ever have. After that, the count only goes down. Cut a finger and the skin heals itself. Break a bone and it slowly knits back together. But the brain, they insisted, was different. A wiring diagram finished at birth, incapable of adding one single new part ever again. It sounded final. It sounded like settled science, closed and filed away, the kind of fact nobody thought to question anymore. It was neither of those things. And the argument that would eventually prove it had already been quietly building for decades. Was the adult brain really finished at birth? Or was some small, stubborn part of it still secretly under construction? The first crack appeared decades ago, when researchers spotted faint hints of new neurons inside the adult human hippocampus. But hints are not proof, and the argument that followed would split the entire field for the better part of 5 years. In 2013, a Swedish research team tried something unusual. They used carbon dating, a technique built for fossils on living human brain tissue. Their estimates stunned people. The adult hippocampus, they calculated, was quietly adding hundreds of brand new neurons every single day. 5 years later, a second team went looking for that same flood of new neurons. They came back with almost nothing. Their conclusion landed like the opposite verdict. New neuron formation in adult humans, they said, was essentially undetectable. Same question, same organ, two completely opposite answers, published years apart, and neither side willing to back down. Here's why nobody could land the knockout blow. No one had ever caught the actual cell red-handed, dividing in the act. Without that one specific cell, both sides were really just arguing over a shadow neither of them could fully prove existed. So a team at Sweden's Karolinska Institutet decided to hunt for the one thing that would finally settle this for good. Not another indirect estimate. The actual factory floor itself, caught in the middle of an active shift. They collected hippocampal tissue donated after death from 35 people ranging from newborn infants to a 78-year-old adult. Then, they ran a technique built to read the activity of a single cell nucleus, one at a time, not tissue-wide averages. What they were hunting for was a chain of 3 specific stages, each one proving the last was real. First, a quiet dormant stem cell. Second, a dividing progenitor cell, waking that stem cell up into action. Third, an immature neuron, freshly built, not yet wired into the surrounding circuit. Catch all 3, and the case closes. They caught all 3 stages, in the same tissue, in adults who had lived well into their 70s. 2 further techniques pinned down exactly where these cells were sitting, deep inside one small hub of the hippocampus. That hub is called the dentate gyrus, a region already known to handle memory, learning, and everyday mental flexibility. The lead scientist put it plainly. These are the cells of origin, ongoing neuron formation, confirmed inside a living memory center. The 5-year war was finally over. The adult brain does build new neurons. Full stop, case closed. But settling that enormous question only exposed a stranger. Much smaller one, hiding underneath it the whole time. Not every brain in the study built new neurons at the same steady rate. Some were unusually busy, others nearly silent. Some adults were packed with these dividing cells. Others of the exact same age had almost none at all. And two people in particular stood far apart from everyone else in the entire study, for reasons nobody fully expected. Both showed unusually high numbers of precursor cells and freshly built neurons, far beyond what their peers displayed. The younger of those two people had lived with epilepsy for most of their life. That detail could mean absolutely nothing. Or it could mean something real. Nobody yet knows which, and the researchers are careful not to guess out loud. In mice, cranking neurogenesis up to unusually high levels can sometimes trigger seizures of its own, on its own. Too many new, unproven connections firing at once before the wiring has had time to settle into place properly. It's a coincidence that looks a little too specific to ignore, and not yet specific enough to fully explain. Scientists don't even know if this kind of quiet construction happens only inside the hippocampus, or elsewhere too. In mice, fresh neurons also show up inside the smell center of the brain. Nobody has confirmed that in humans yet. Which brings this story back to a place you may already recognize, from a construction site you've stood inside before. A baby's brain, remember, is a construction site running in overdrive. New neurons flooding in fast enough to bury entire years. That flood was never built to last forever. And true to form, eventually, it doesn't. It slows down dramatically. But it turns out the site itself never actually shuts its doors completely. It simply downsizes its crew. Fewer new hires, slower shifts, a skeleton crew still quietly pouring foundations in one small hippocampal room decades later. Some brains keep a noticeably bigger crew on payroll than others, for reasons nobody has fully worked out yet. If scientists ever learn how to hire that crew back up on command, the implications could run remarkably deep. The same construction that once quietly buried your very first memories might one day help rebuild a mind damaged by disease. The blueprint you were born with was never actually finished. It was only ever the first shift. Someone is still on the clock.